Alright, peeps. So I decided before I release my newer episodes of Why Not, I decided to do a review on the games that I played in the previous series from last year. So, to begin with, I'll be reviewing three games. First is Slender, the 8 pages, that's the original one. Street Fighter Cross Tekken, and Run 2. Alright, so to begin with Slender, right? I almost forgot that. Slender, it's interesting. Actually, I didn't know about Slender until my little brother mentioned it to me. He was telling me about the urban legend of the Slender Man and whatnot, and what he does apparently and all that. And I was intrigued by the story. I was like, man, that sounds interesting. He showed me the story himself, and he said there's a game of it, and he showed me the site where the game is, so I decided to download it and give it a go. And I thought, I might as well play it for why not, because, well, why not? Hence the name of the series. Um, it's a really good game, actually. I quite like it, and I can imagine a lot of other people would. Maybe some people were just not into that, but I don't know. I can't see a huge amount of people saying they don't like it. It's one of those things that's it's different. You don't find that kind of thing often, and it's a very unusual kind of idea. And the fact that it's based off the Slender Man, it's really cool. As a lot of you people would know, and if you haven't played it, well, this is news to you. You just go around in the forest and look for 8 pages left around the area. And while you're doing that, you're being followed by the Slender Man. And if you look at him for too long, or if he catches up to you, you're gone. You fail the game. There's no attacking or anything, as a lot of people would know. And you have a very flimsy torch, and the game is extremely dark to the extent where you can barely see in front of you. And I like that. It gives it that mood, that really kind of eerie, that scary kind of mood, and it makes things a whole lot more interesting that way. Um, it's I'd have to say that despite the fact that it's a really good game and it's a unique kind of idea, um, the downfall with this game is that it's a little too repetitive for my liking. It's kind of like you play the game over and over, and it's practically the same thing to you. It's not new. It's the same scenario, the same kind of, just everything is the same. So you pretty much grow used to it, and then eventually you're just desensitized, and it doesn't phase you one bit. Like when the Slender Man catches you, you're just like, So because of that whole repetitive kind of thing, I'd have to say that's what makes it not exactly like the best game of its kind out there, but it's still pretty good. It does a good job of what it does. Um, yeah. So if anyone hasn't played this game, I suggest playing it. You will find it. Yeah, it's really good. For this game, I'd probably give it an 8 out of 10. It gets a 2 point deduction because of the repetitive thing, but other than that, all the other points are well deserved. So yeah, 8 out of 10. Where? Oh! You son of a bitch! Next, there is Street Fighter Cross Tekken. Now, since my childhood, this has been a lifelong dream of. Nah, man, I'm having a speech impediment. It's a lifelong dream of mine to have a crossover between the two, because I'm a huge fan of Tekken and Street Fighter, and I thought how awesome would it be to have the both battle each other like Marvel vs. Capcom. Eventually my dream was realized, but unfortunately it didn't meet my standards. I don't know, like it didn't intrigue me as much as I thought it would. And yeah, it's a good game nevertheless, but it's not one with much replay value, and you get bored of it really quick. I mean, I know I do. I mean, it's got a decent character roster and whatnot, and with the update for the 360 version and PS3 one, you get more characters and whatnot. Uh, it is a little difficult to control with Tekken characters, being as you're unfamiliar with their moves and the whole Street Fighter style gameplay. It's different, and so you really don't know what you're doing with the Tekken characters. And I mean, you can read the instruction booklet or go through the commands and whatnot, but you'd really have to take your time to learn those things on your own before actually jumping into a single player game or a multiplayer game to try them out. Because for newcomers, well, not newcomers necessarily, it's more for people who want to use Tekken characters but in a Street Fighter style, it would be difficult for them to get at first. They'd have to really take the time to practice. So for that, I'd have to say it's not as good as it really could have been. It plays a lot like Street Fighter, as you know. It's good in that sense. It's very responsive. Each control does its job. You know, like you press a button and it's right on target. But the character switch thing, the whole swapping between characters button combination sometimes doesn't work, and I hate that. Because in mid-battle, you know, I'd be getting hit by the opponent and it won't let me switch out because the buttons won't respond. So that's kind of a downside to it. The graphics are good, definitely better than Street Fighter 4. I really didn't like the way that looked. So it's an alright game, but not the best. It was kind of a disappointment in my opinion. So yeah, I mean, I liked it, but I didn't like it that much. So for this game, I'd give it a 6 out of 10. Because it could have been a whole lot better. And the fans will even say that, especially die-hard fans of both the series. And he's like, grab him. Boom, bitch! Fucking ended you, Kuma. See, but this is only the first battle, so of course it's easy for now. Finally, I am reviewing Run 2, a free flash game that you can play on quite a few different sites. Just type the name into Google and you'll find it easily. Remember this, Run 2. Now that game it's easy at first, and then it gets a little bit difficult. But I mean, that's the basis of a good game. You don't want a game though that starts too easy and immediately jumps into like an almost impossible stage. It doesn't work like that in this game though. It does it well. It balances difficulty levels perfectly. I mean, the only problem is that sometimes when you jump, you don't jump as far as you normally do in some cases, especially when you really need to jump far. So in quite a few cases, you can't clear big gaps, and you would have seen that in the episode of Why Not, where I'm playing Run 2, which is personally my favorite episode, I think, or one of my favorites. It's in the top 3. And yeah, so because of the whole sudden short distance jump, you get this kind of result. This game is just it's fucked beyond reason. Holy fucking shit. So yeah, that's pretty much the only downfall of this game, I believe, because I like the graphics. They look pretty good for a flash game. I mean, it's interesting. It's got its vivid look in contrast with the dark background, and it fits it perfectly. And the sprites move very well. The music is a bit catchy. I mean, eventually you start to get sick of it, but what the hell, you know, it's funky, and I think you can turn down the music anyway. So yeah, it's a really good game, and if anyone hasn't played it, give it a try and see what you think. Because I personally like this game a fair bit, and I think some of you may like it as well. You suck! You suck at fucking life!